All right, we're back, and one thing that is always a big topic. It's a big topic of discussion on our radio show. It's big in just the world in general, YouTube, etc., other talk shows, and that is, guys, how long can I really go before I have to change oil? The extended interval oil changes are becoming a bigger and bigger thing. Some of that's driven by the manufacturers. We talked through the last break a little bit about that. Some of it's just driven by the fact that the higher quality oils will allow you to do that even on an older vehicle. It's uncommon, even on an older vehicle with high quality oil, high quality modern oil, I should say. That's not if you've taken a can off the shelf that was sitting there for 20 years. I'm talking, go out, buy good quality, high-end, fresh oil. You just don't need to do three months, 3,000 miles anymore. That's a thing. Even on an older vehicle, that's a thing of the past. And I'm talking to the oil experts, and they're shaking their head in agreement. It's just a thing of the past.
No, you're right. I mean, and John, you're right on it. You start looking at the new API service classifications. If you pick up a motor oil, just pick up a quart. If you're going in to talk about buying one for your own personal vehicle, look for the Starburst. Look for the SNGF 5-star burst that's set on there to be able to tell that this engine oil has been approved by the American Petroleum Institute. Now, if you meet that standard and you start looking at what today's engine is, and depending on the viscosity that your automotive requires, is that you can take and it's built good enough to take you beyond, and that's what it's there for. Now, as an engine oil supplier, we always recommend that you follow what the OEM, manufacturer,
and on the show we do exactly the same thing. If it says that you need to change it at 7,500, or as we talked through the break, in some cases don't change it until your light tells you so, or until
your sensor tells
you so, etc. And that's a conversation all in of itself we won't get into, is how those are all built. But there are some that just tell you, watch when that thing gets down to 10% left or whatever, then that's the time to change it. And to your point, in some cases, that could be 10,000 miles.
Absolutely, like the Toyota Camrys right now recommend a 10,000 mile oil change. Or when you look at some of the General Motors, I can remember dealing with a car dealer, one of the top technicians in the Midwest, talking to him about it. What happens if the sensor doesn't come on in a year? Well, you better take it back to the dealership. I said, in a year? It depends on how much that person could have drove 20,000 miles, so you could have a faulty sensor to be able to look at that. But with that being said, API and the engine manufacturers and the government stated to build this product to be able to allow for things like that to happen. That's the reason why cold crank and volatility is very important in what they said as an API standard lubricant. 5,000, 7,500, 10,000 mile oil change intervals are not unobtainable. They're there. You have a product built well enough to handle that. And but as far as recommending it, we still, depending on the style of drive you're doing, depending on the locations where you're at, whether you're off-road, dirt, stuff that's been involved, but depending on whether you're pulling a horse trailer or whether you're pulling an equipment trailer on a vehicle, how high do you heat that engine oil up? And Gary had a great deal. I mean, talk to them about what happens that goes on besides changing the oil.
Yeah, I mean, there's other things you're doing. There are owners out there that like to do some of those daily or weekly checks you do on the car, check your air pressure, your tires, look at your air filter, but there are also a lot of people out there that don't. And if the service facility that you use to maintain your car, if they're doing everything that you need done to your car, then they need to see it maybe a little more often. So you got to be careful how far you stretch it out.
Yeah, and this segues into why it's important to have, and guys, I'm going to do a commercial here. Yes, it's important to have a quality shop that you continue to go back for. No offense, Quick Lubes, but you need a quality shop that can handle everything your vehicle needs, and that's who you need to be visiting on a regular basis, to Gary's point, because there's other things your car needs besides just an oil change. And by the way, I would be hesitant to go to certain places to get my oil changed for fear that they really know for sure what actually needs to go in it. That's a side note. We talk about that on the radio plenty enough. I won't do that here. But make sure that you're using a high quality installer that knows the vehicle, is asking these questions. In fact, if you go in and you ask somebody, well, how long can I actually go on an oil change, and you just get an automatic response back, that's the wrong answer. And the reason I know that is because they haven't qualified you enough as a driver to know what you're doing with the vehicle to give you the proper answer. So if you walk into a shop and say, how long can I go on this oil change, and they just rattle off 5,000 miles, well, unless they know you and know your vehicle because you're there all the time, that might be the exception. But typically they need to be asking, How many miles a year do you drive? What kind of driving do you do? What do you do mainly every day? What do you store your vehicle inside or outside? All these things have a bearing on how often you change oil. So just as a side note, fans, if you don't have an installer that's asking some of those questions when it comes to actually changing your oil, find a new installer. Sorry,
That's a
guys.
great
that's
point.
just the way
No,
it
no,
is.
it's a great point, because you just talked about the automotive side of extended oil drains. Now you have a diesel side to going into.
Stop there. Let's take a quick break. We come back. That's a great segue. We want to talk about diesels because a lot of you guys that listen to us are big diesel owners and drivers and even have fleets. Let's go there in just a second.